Good. Happy half hour Friday, July 24th. I think it's been about a month since our last happy half hour. So welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you've had some good times since the last time we met, and it's been pretty exciting. We're starting to see parts of the country turning back on, parts of the country turning back off. We were talking with a client the other day who was in Florida and how they were pushing away everybody in New York from coming down there when this whole thing started. Now everybody in New York doesn't want anything to do with anybody in Florida. So it's been quite a fun turn of events over the last several weeks, but hopefully everybody's doing well. We're here today to talk about VoIP again. We've talked about it a couple different times, but we're talking about it a little bit differently, and we're going to talk with a panel here. So just gentlemen, raise your hand when I call out to you. So Jim McHale is joining us from down in Dallas, Texas. How you doing, Jim?
Very well.
All right. For everybody's knowledge, we're going to be referring to Jim as James here because next I want to introduce Jim Bain. Jim, you there? There's Jim Bain. Jim runs our field operations, and James McHale is one of our sales engineers. He's been on a couple of these previously. Welcome back, James, and glad to have you first time, Jim. And Clayton, how are you, Clayton?
Good, Chris. How's it going?
I'm doing great. Clayton is one of our senior product engineers responsible for bringing products to life, and we're going to be talking about a little bit of that here coming up. So I'm going to advance my slide here really quick, just what we're going to be talking about, who's on the panel today. And we're going to start right off with, we're going to structure our conversation in regards to here's what BullsEye has to offer, here's how we deliver it, and then Clayton's going to come in and talk about kind of what's going on behind the curtain, what's next, and we're gonna dabble a little bit around. I'm going to try to keep an eye on any comments and chats that come in as we go through this. So first question for James McHale. James, as we were kind of setting up the stage here, you thought it'd be important for us to talk about, I think you used the word was diversity of VoIP and the solutions that are out there. So what did you want to share with everybody that's listening in today?
Sure, guys. First of all, Jim McHale, 25-year veteran in here, been around the block quite a few times, very familiar with all the solution sets. But what I like here is that we've got a great P2V or POTS to VoIP type solution that goes on where I can aggregate POTS into VoIP. And now VoIP is a big wide piece, and are we talking integrative voice, which is going to be, using an ATA to replace those simple voice lines so they don't have to update their equipment? Are we talking hosted voice where there's a seat and there's hardware that's assigned at that seat, if that's a Poly, an OB-High, a Panasonic cordless, something of that nature? Then there is, the other flavors such as an IP PRI, which would be a TDM PRI replacement that runs over existing broadband using NADTRAN 908 to break it out. And so you've got that flavor. You can take it to the next extreme flavor. Well, let's see. Before I do that, there's also SIP trunking. That is another flavor of VoIP. So if they have a modern PBX and can accept SIP trunks, we can deliver the voice that way as well. Now, the bleeding edge that we're starting to get into, we're talking about Teams integration and POTS in a box. And I've got some people later that are going to be talking about that stuff. But that's kind of that spread of, yes, I can get you from POTS to VoIP. But when you get to VoIP, what is that mixed or easy transition? Because those partners out there and those customers out there, they're looking at, I've got a return on the investment, possibly still on the hardware that's in place, but I need to make a transition and get off POTS because we all know we're coming up on a deadline with the whole FCC forbearance that's coming up. So we're trying to get everybody transitioned, and that's the game. So realistically, that's how it kind of plays in.
So, you mentioned PRI, our product guys are on this call, so they're probably going to kill me for saying this, but we don't want PRIs. We want IP PRIs. We want to replace those PRIs that are out there. Can you just really quickly explain what an IP PRI is for people that don't know, possibly?
Sure. Basically is what it is. It is VoIP that is sent to the end location and utilizes a piece of hardware that converts that VoIP or SIP signal into a handoff for traditional PRI. and that's going to take that traditional cable where you'd plug in that traditional PRI cable into a port there, and then you're going to plug it into the other side on our PRI card, and it's going to work just like a traditional PRI. And the only difference, it's delivered over a broadband signal and converted.
So diversity, and maybe Jim Bain will touch on this in a moment, but first, James, from you, diversity also could go for a single account, right? So if you're, a customer, you've got 50 or you've got 4,000 locations, we don't need to deliver one to all, we can deliver some to all, right?
Correct. And if we're all on the VoIP, so I may do, say, a SIP trunk to this location. I may do some hosted over here. I may even do a UC client that is that unified communication that I can bolt on as well, where it's just a soft client that's on a laptop or a phone. But I can tie that whole organization together where we can do 4-digit dialing in between and all that fun stuff.
Awesome. So, Jim Bain, I'll let you introduce yourself and then just answer a quick question about, we'll get into diversity of what you actually see out there in the world, but why don't you share a little bit with the team in regards to what your role is after we actually get the order. So first your intro, and then, what does your team do today?
Sure. Well, my name is Jim Bain. I'm the field operations manager here at BullsEye Telecom. I've been in telecom for about 25 years as well, 5 years here with BullsEye, and I've been an ops manager for about 15 of those years. So when it comes time to deploying the solution that James is talking about, it's my team that will source the technicians and work through the scope and actually do the implementation there at the site. That's where we're putting the little pieces together, depending on what sort of solution you've put together. That would be information that would come from James McHale, and certain sites may have different requirements than others. So we'll look through those and ensure that we've got the right scope set up and that we've got the tech set up to do the right kind of job, so that when it comes to the appointment time, working with another department within BullsEye called Activations Engineering, we're able to implement these solutions and convert customers over from plain old telephone service to VoIP. The VoIP, it seems nowadays, folks are looking back on it like they used to look at it ISDN, which some providers looked at it as innovation subscribers don't need. When in fact ISDN was pretty doggone cool. As James was talking about with the IP PRI, that's another flavor of ISDN, and there are some customers that still they've got those systems and they're not quite ready to break from that. So we have that solution as well. So if there's some SIP trunks that need to be converted over, we'll do that at those locations as part of a larger plan, so that we come back out and eventually convert everything over, so we don't have those clunky machines with their old features sucking up the electricity at your location.
Right. No, thank you. So, we talked about whether we should talk about this or not, and I think it's good for us to talk about this piece coming up here right now that I'm going to ask why we do it, but we aren't the ship or buy, ship, and pray type of operation. We don't just send phones out there and say, hey, good luck, plug them in, here's a really good price. We have, and we would just simply refer to it as white glove. We've got probably a little bit more touch points. We'll be as minimally invasive to the operations as possible. But can you kind of walk through, Jim Bain? First, let's have you walk through the deployment process, the upfront. What do you guys do first? Because really the biggest the biggest struggle, I guess, you have with deployments for 50 or 500 locations is, what does the network look like today? Can it support it? Can you walk through in a minute or so what it is that you guys do to find out if what James McHale just sold is going to be installed?
Sure. So what we'll do is we test the solution out, and part of that the solution testing has to do with testing there from the site. Local area networks have grown up organically as the internet's rolled out over places, and cabling and equipment that may have been installed 10 years ago really didn't have an eye on fast packet traveling through there. If you go back to Windows XP, for instance, the time slicer on there didn't even slice into milliseconds. So we go through and we run a test, and we'll simulate VoIP traffic. We'll We'll simulate flooding the circuit with
I'm going to interrupt you really
VoIP
quick because I'm going to advance the slide in case you want to talk about anything that's on here. So go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so as you can see here on this slide, we've got a VoIP readiness test, and it's not just a speed test. We'll go through and we'll simulate a number of VoIP calls depending on what the solution is for that location, and our technician runs this from a laptop. They're at the site. The test is available online. If anyone wants to go poke it later on, they sure can. And what we'll do is we're gonna stress out this internet connection. We're gonna send a lot of packets downrange, as it were, to find out where the breaking points are, and then if there's anything that will impede our ability to provide the VoIP service, we'll get working on fixing those. Because VoIP it's a technology. All we got to do is solve the problems that go with it, and we can get people turned on to a much better way of communicating.
All right, so that's the first step, and we're going to stick with you here just a little bit longer, Jim, because I think this is important for everybody to understand that it's not that ship and pray. And Clayton, I know you want to talk about all that new stuff, but and we're going to get to that, I promise. But I think the deployment piece is pretty important. That it's not that you're in good hands. That you've got technicians that are out there that we've surveyed. We've qualified them to make sure that they can handle the solution that we're installing, because for each solution it's a little bit different. So Jim, can you just talk just a little bit about, in regards to how you go through your vetting process for the techs that are going to be in a certain geographical market, and then what happens after an install in regards to how we score them?
Absolutely, thanks. So when it comes to the technicians, we have a couple of threads that we're looking at as we're vetting our technicians, and it's an ongoing process. It never ever stops. We'll take a look at the technician's profile, and then we've also amassed our own talent pools where we've got information about work history with folks, and we put them, based on their skills and results, we put them into talent pools. So we'll set those things up front. When the job comes along, then we go back to those talent pools based on the geographic location for our customer, and then we'll line up technicians that we've had experience successfully deploying those things. That's the early part, and then we execute on the job. So we expect to have success because we're going with someone there at the site that have succeeded in the past. And after the job is completed, our activations team then fills out a survey for every single job. And we go back and we rate the technician on two major categories, really. We got the technical proficiency and then the people side. Because if it wasn't for people, we wouldn't need to put all the technology out there. So it's got to be effective for folks that are out there, and the technicians we send must also work well with our customers so that we have the right kind of solution. We take that data and then we put it back into the system to influence the next decision that we're going to make as far as our assignments go.
Awesome. That's great. I'm going to bring Clayton in really quick because a question came up here. So Clayton, if you want to take a first stab at this, and anybody else that wants to chime in, question came in. Do you need any other on-site devices, and in parentheses QoS, for your hosted service?
So by default, BullsEye deploys a traffic shaping device, which is actually on the screen right there. That's that Netgear GS105 switch. We generally like to deploy that to help us rate shape a circuit if necessary. It also provides some basic on-LAN QoS. But in theory, no, our VoIP is over the top. So we can go directly out to the internet from your site. We do also have the option of deploying with our SD-WAN partner VeloCloud, which allows us to utilize unique partner gateways to create an end-to-end overlay and protect that VoIP and give it ultimate QoS.
Awesome.
Okay.
Jim Bain, coming back, question for you. Someone's asking how they could become a certified installer for BullsEye.
Sure, we've got an onboarding process for becoming an installer. We work with a partner in Field Nation that get your email address after the call here, and I'll drop you a line and send you some instructions to get set up in there. You'll also have my email to contact me afterwards, and then we'll work on getting you assigned to a talent pool and seeing where we go from there.
Okay, awesome. Clayton, let's jump into a little bit of the what's coming up next. So, you're Jim talking briefly about teams, and I think he mentioned the phrase called pots in a box. I'm not sure if that's an industry term or if that's something that we're saying, but you want to walk through kind of what's on the horizon here for BullsEye?
Sure, Chris, thanks. I think first and foremost, the most exciting thing happening right now is our MS Teams direct routing product. And what that does is it allows Microsoft Teams users on the Office 365 platform to make and receive PSTN calling or external calling. So they can receive a call from the outside world or make a call to the outside world, not just to another Teams user. So that's deployed using our BroadSoft switch and integrates directly with the customer's Microsoft Teams tenant and enables that calling. Some of the great features with going with direct routing through a third-party provider as opposed to Microsoft directly, the advanced calling features are much more robust in our BroadSoft environment than they are in Teams. Things like auto attendance, hunt groups, call forwarding, much easier to configure and build, also much more robust in their features. Also pricing. I mean, pricing's a big thing these days, and we're coming in a couple bucks cheaper per month per seat than Microsoft is directly, with the same calling features, long distance and international calling. So, if that's something that your customers or you and your organization are looking to do, reach out, and we'd love to show you how we can do that.
Now, Clayton, is this just for a client, or are we going to have some desktop phones that physically sit on the desktop with the integration also?
Great question, Jim. We're actually doing both. So the customer can utilize their existing Teams client on their laptop, on their mobile device, etc. But we also have both Polycom and Yealink endlinks that are Teams compatible. So the Polycom CCX series and the Yealink VP series. I actually have a VP59 that I use, and I love it. The integration is seamless. Joining meetings and video calls, screen shares just for the single touch of the screen. It's very, very convenient and works exceptionally well.
Awesome.
So before you get off of Teams, I just want to make sure that I'm going to jump around a little bit here for some of the questions. So James McHale, question came up. And I'm going to add a little something to the end of this question here, but are you the hosted provider, or are you white labeling? I know the answer, but I want you to answer it. And then after that, can you talk a little bit about our data centers, and maybe even if you could talk a little bit about encrypted VoIP?
I'm going to handle the first, and maybe me and Clayton will handle the second. The first, let's talk about how it's designed. It goes like this. Integration says we're going to have SIP trunks. Our SIP trunks are going to connect to Azure. And so that is going to connect with the instance of that O365 with what level licensing, Clayton, do we have to be at? E5?
Correct, E5.
E5 licensing. So the trunking is going to go to there. Doesn't matter if it's the client or if it's on a hard phone, you're going to log in with those O365 credentials, just like you would for anything else for Office 365. So the call routes, all that trunking goes back to Azure. So the conversation is truly going from, we look at the call from initiating from Azure to your handset or to your client that's a soft client. Data centers, go ahead, Clayton. I'm going to let you kind of clarify how it is. It's Equinox that we share in multiple data centers, but go ahead.
Sure. So BullsEye utilizes 2 geographically redundant data centers. As Jim mentioned, they're Equinix Class 5 data centers, multi-home power, multi-home data, multi-floor levels for fire and filtration separation. So they really are hardened data centers. Both data centers, Chicago and Dallas, we have fully redundant BroadSoft switches, fully redundant SBCs, fully redundant partner gateways for our Velo environment. So an entire data center can drop offline with zero impact to our end users. So we're also very unique in that we actually test it. A lot of companies, VoIP companies, will tell you they're redundant. Once a year, BullsEye actually flips the switch. We actually turn off Dallas, simulate a failover to Chicago, and prove that it works. And one thing we pride ourselves on is we actually have a report we can give you. If you'd like to see how we do it and the statistics, reach out and we can actually share that report with you guys.
Now,
Awesome.
the third part of the question was in regards to the encrypted tunnels for the voice. Yes, we actually have multiple things. We have SRTP on some of the phones that are encrypted from the BroadSoft. That's one piece. That's an option only to the Polycoms, though. But all the other stuff, if I put a Velo out there, it does an AES 256 tunnel, SHA-2, that is going to get back to our data center, as Clayton just stated. Our stack is all right there. So basically that encrypted tunnel just lands up right at our voice switch, and so it's encrypted all the way through. Makes it nice and clean when it comes to HIPAA and PCI.
Awesome. Clayton, I'm going to come back to you in just a moment about pots in a box. Jim Bain, though, coming back to the dispatches, can you just, and again, I'm not sure that I heard what I would like to hear in regards to specifically the number of roles that we do and why we do them, and maybe one's even like an insurance policy. We don't have to do them all, but can you just go through like the 1, 2, 3s of how we do the deployments?
Sure. And thanks for that, Chris. What we do is we plan on doing 2 truck rolls. We'll do 1 to test everything out in advance. And if we find there are issues, as it shows in the slide, we may make some adjustments to the traffic shaping device so that we're looking at a ratio of packets. That's what that 8-to-1 is. That'll occur on the first deployment or the first truck roll. And once we've normalized what's going on out there, and we know that everything's working the way it should, then we'll schedule another time to return and actually move the services over. And it's very intrusive, and we don't want to, really impact the customer's business at all. If there's a way to not do it, that's what we're looking for. So we'll split those up into 2, and if we need a third one, well, then we'll come out there and we'll do another follow-up on the install before we get to that cutover, so that we can reduce the impact to folks' business. For instance, you can see here we've got this, what we call virtual tech, is a BullsEye network appliance, is another way that we'll within the truck rolls that we have, we'll deploy this box so that we've got additional insight to BullsEye's equipment while we're there. And that allows us to avoid having additional truck rolls later because, we've got a piece of equipment that we can use to do some of this work. Outside of there, so we've got our couple of truck rolls that we put into the job to make sure we get it done. And then we've got, the follow-up afterwards, from the activation team before we let the technicians leave to ensure that we've got everything working the way it should be.
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, it is a lot of work, scheduling the dispatches, but again, we treat it as a white glove. We treat it as an enterprise solution. It is not something that we're just trying to, no disrespect to gas station owners, but it's not just turning up a gas station and walking out the door. We know that there's customers coming in all the time, that there's certain sensitive times of the day, meaning, a lunch rush, or maybe, if you're in retail, maybe there's hopefully very soon, a holiday, season coming up here, that we'll be cognizant of the Friday cutovers. So thank you, Jim. I think you touched on it there. So Clayton, I know you want to talk.
Wait 1 second. I want to add something, guys, because it's important. All of those truck rolls he just listed out are included. There's no extra cost for what's going on there, and that's the big part that we have to hammer in. That's all included in the price. Go ahead, guys.
No, thanks, James. So Clayton, I'll come back to you in regards to, you also want to talk about pots in a box, contact center, a couple different things. So I'll let you kind of take it from here.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, so another exciting product we have coming right now, as James alluded to in the beginning, we like to do the most thorough or complete POTS to VoIP conversion possible. And one thing that's always kind of been the outlier has been what we call FLS, or fire life safety lines. Those are your alarm panels, your fire alarms, your burglars, your pool phones, elevator phones, things of that nature, which traditionally needed to be on a POTS line or didn't succeed well on VoIP lines. And we've got an exciting product coming out which will allow us to convert those lines over to a cellular-based POTS replacement. So it's a device that we deploy on site. It supports up to 4 lines, uses a cellular LTE connection, so it doesn't rely on broadband, has a battery backup that can power it in case of power failure. So it's a really robust solution that allows us to convert those lines and guarantee success with that type of fire life safety line. So stay tuned for that. It's currently in our lean launch program, which means we're deploying it to a few test customers and should be live very quick. So we're excited about that.
Something that we've been talking about.
It's a game changer.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
And I know we're getting to the bottom of the hour here, so I want to give a quick plug to our new contact center product. BullsEye has partnered with TalkDesk, and we're really excited to get that out there. In this new world we live in, the way we communicate and talk with our customers is changing. So the customer experience is also changing. And by deploying a contact center, you're rolling all of your touch points into one location, whether it's email, web contact form, text, voicemail, regular phone calls, etc. A contact center rolls that all into one location and allows one person to communicate with your customers through all of those mediums. So we're excited. That's a product we also have available. So if you'd like to see a demo of that or anything, reach out and we'll get that set up for you.
That's awesome. Really quick, let's go through maybe a timeline from, let's say from paperwork to closed, turned up location, and Jim McHale, maybe you can pick the product that you want. What would be, an estimated time frame? Now we're going to work within the flexibility of the customer, but as we have for normal SLAs, what would that look like?
Oh, I love how you throw this out and pick a product, because it is, guys, it is diverse on the product. Some products launch a lot quicker than others. But on average, you're looking, for even the hardest product, besides fiber, 4 to 6 weeks. I mean, you're going to get in, you're going to go through a process, we're going to do signature, and we're going to get through it. And most of the products are installed 4 to 6 weeks, from initial sale, going through everything, getting it configured, getting it launched on site, and everything handed off white glove with training afterwards, so everybody's on the same page. That's the average.
That was the setup for it, because I wanted to bring it back to what Jim Bain was just talking about in regards to testing the network, doing the validation, going through the numbers, configuring the phones, setting up the install. I mean, it sounds like a lot because it is a infrastructure change, and it's something that's going to hopefully stay in place for the next 10 years plus, unless you want to migrate again over to Microsoft Teams, which is the evolution of that product. So we are at the really at the end of our hour. I'm going to quickly go around anything that anybody wants to add one last time. I'm sorry that we didn't get to all the questions here, but Clayton, anything else left to add? Comments, questions? Good joke?
No, I'm all good. I just want to say, everybody, I bought a new race car this weekend, so I'm excited.
Oh, we got to talk later.
Yeah, we will. I can't wait to see some pics. Jim Bain?
I don't have anything to add. It's been a great experience.
All right, James McHale.
Going to wrap it up. Everybody have a great weekend and be safe out there. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us here. If you guys want to get a recap of this, we do put them on our website. We record these and host them there. So please check out our website, bullseyetelecom.com, and there's all of our previous happy half hours that are listed there. So thank you for being a customer. Thank you for being a partner. We appreciate it, and hopefully everybody has a great day. Thanks. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Nice guys. Nice guys.